Hello, my name is Joseph Patton, and I'd just like to take your time a little bit here to talk about military veterans and active service members and their information needs. Uh, First off, I think it's really important that I note that military veterans and active service members are actually two different groups of people because they have similar experiences, and I think it's easy for us to kind of group them together. But I think it's really important to know that they have in many cases they have very different information needs, and we should be aware of that and be ready to deal with them in the separate issues that they require. First of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the demographics of each group. Break it down to numbers. Sorry if that's obnoxious for you. I'll try to be a little more content oriented with the explanation, so it isn't just numbers floating around and then ratios and percentages. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some individuals who I spoke to and some of the feedback they gave me from a few questions I asked them about their information needs. Just to get a nice little snapshot example of folks in the military and who they are and what we as librarians can provide for them. Okay, so to start off, we're just going to talk about currently serving folks in the military. I'm going to break that demographics down into these categories of gender, age, race or ethnicity, geographic origins, educational background, the branches of the service that are involved in the military, and individual rank. There are currently 1,388,028 active service personnel. Noteworthy, that does not include reservists. That is simply active duty. So only people currently serving. That number is actually from 2012, so the number currently is probably a little different. But based upon the resources, I think it's okay to assume the number is probably fairly similar to that. So first of all, gender demographics. Women actually comprise close to 15% of the active duty force, and then men about 85 roughly. So that's the ratio that's existing right now within the current military. The number of women is expected to grow. It has grown within the past decade or so, and higher ups believe that this trend will continue. Interesting to note, the Department of Defense limits gender simply to male and female. Anybody who does not necessarily hold themselves to those specific definitions, either they're not represented appropriately or in the same way. So yeah. Age demographics. Officers, about 25% are above the age of 40. 38.5% are 31 to 40. 36% are 30 and younger. The average age for the officers is a little under 37. Or I'm sorry, 35. Enlisted folks is actually fairly different. Close to half of enlisted folks, that's people who serve under an officer, are under the age of 25. So it's a much younger group. You can see from the other percentages there. The average age for enlisted folks is 27.4 years of age. Race or ethnicity. Minorities are identified as 30.3% as of 2012. Minority, as defined by the study, was folks who are African American, Asian, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, multiracial or other unknown. Honestly, one thing I would be curious about, especially through the source that I used, Hispanics were not counted either as a minority or in any way. They may have been included in the non-minority group. I know that they are increasing drastically in population. So I'd be very interested to get a hold of those statistics, and I'm sure I can find them if I do a little more digging. The number of non-white personnel has increased drastically and is expected to continue. So I think the population in the military is going to become a little less homogenous and is going to become, is going to be, less of the same thing and a lot more diversity going on in the ranks. The geographic backgrounds. This is something I found really interesting. The top 10 states that contribute men that serve within the borders are California, Texas, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington, Florida, Hawaii, Kentucky, and South Carolina. That comprises 70.2% of personnel stationed in the United States. What I found really interesting about this is that that's a really interesting blend of what we politically refer to as red, blue, and purple states. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with political ideology. There are folks who are, generally speaking, there are folks with all kinds of political beliefs and different ideas, and they all kind of serve within the same institution. Educational background. Officers, a vast majority, have bachelor's degrees. That's 82.4%. Enlisted men is 5.9% with a bachelor degree, but 98.8% have a high school diploma. I think sometimes there's a lot of negative connotation to some folks. Dropping out of school to join the military, and I don't think that that's necessarily. There's a lot of that. I think that the majority of, as the statistic shows, an incredible almost 100% of enlisted folks in the military actually have their high school diploma. I think some of the negative connotations that people have with military service of them being not as educated, I think is a little unfair. Okay, so there are 5 main branches, including the Coast Guard, that compose the U.S. military. The Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps are the main 4, and the Coast Guard is also considered part of the military there. So the Army has over 500,000 members. It's the largest branch of the service in terms of personnel. The second would be the Air Force, which is over 300,000. The Navy is also over 300,000. The Marine Corps, close to 200,000, and the Coast Guard is just over 40,000 active members. So that's the number of personnel as of 2012 that were serving in the United States military, active duty, which is that's a lot of guys, and it's a lot of people to be serving under these branches of government, really. Rank. I'm just going to look at ratios here. Just hold on, we're almost through all the numbers. So the ratios of officers to enlisted men within the U.S. military is 1 officer for every 4.8 enlisted men. Within the Army, it's 1 to 4.5. Air Force is 1 to 4.1. Navy 1 to 4.9, and the Marine Corps is 1 to 8.1. Okay, so now we get into veterans, which, like I said, is actually a different group with different information needs. And to kind of reflect that idea, I found their demographic information as well. So we'll walk through this really quickly too. Age demographics. There are currently about 22 to 23 million veterans of the United States military. That number is expected to actually decrease over the next 30 years. Unfortunately, a lot of the veterans from both the Second World War and Korea are getting up there in age. A lot of the Vietnam guys are too, and we're beginning to lose these folks. Veteran gender demographics is really interesting. Women currently compose 9% of the veteran population. That's expected to increase over the next 30 years. I believe it's expected to almost double, actually. So women will compose close to a fifth of the actual actual military veteran organization. The race and ethnicity for veterans: African Americans are about 12%, Hispanics are about 6%, and groups that are considered other, that's American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Asians, Pacific Islanders, and other groups, they compose about 3.5%. And this is really interesting for me, especially. The Second World War, they're 5%. They compose 5% of the population of veterans, and that number is falling simply because we're losing those folks. The Korean conflict, the same. They're a little under 10%, and that number is falling. The Vietnam era is about a third, 33%, and that number is also falling. The Gulf War conflict, which I believe they're defining as something that extends even through to today, as 30%, and that's rising because those guys are getting out of the service and being veterans out of the service. Okay, so if you're interested, these are the two resources specifically that I used for these outlines. Like I said, the 2012 one is 2 years old, so it's a little dated, and some of the numbers can definitely be different by this point. But the veterans information is actually very recent. It's within the past month, and so those numbers should still hold up to age. Okay, so I would just like to talk for just a little bit longer about some of the interactions I've had with veterans I reached out to, and some of the different questions I asked them about their information needs. The first question I came up with to ask them was, as a veteran, what kinds of information do you need access to that doesn't apply to civilian groups? The second, how often do you need to find this kind of information? The third, do you use an agency like a library or government office to find this information, or do you find it on your own? The fourth and fifth questions, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of responses to. Some of the guys who I was really most interested in hearing from were some of the guys still in active service, but because of the limitations of what they're up to, they can't respond to me as quickly or as much as I want to. One guy's unfortunately out to sea, so he's having trouble getting in contact with me. I think on a 6-month cruise with his ship, and the other guy is a first lieutenant in the Army, and he can only do so much in his spare time. But I asked if they were to use these agencies, do you find them to be helpful or hindrance? And in what way do you think these agencies could be changed to better fit your needs? So those are the questions I was really interested in. I got some really great responses. Folks talked about, for question 1, what kind of information do you seek? Folks talked about the information about the GI Bill, information about disabilities, contact information for getting in touch with people when you're out, tax exemptions, that kind of stuff. A lot of the guys who are in the service mentioned when I've spoken to them, entertainment, even when you're off duty. I think we kind of forget that that's also really important to them. It's not all business. Sometimes they just need to relax for 5 minutes. Family relocation services was another one for those serving. Making sure that the family can move with them when they can. VA medical benefits is going to be a big one. I know there's a lot of controversy going on, specifically with the Veterans Administration right now. So we'll see exactly what that does, but that was something that a lot of them mentioned. And job opportunities was a big one, especially getting out, specifically about what kinds of things would present themselves, whether it be careers or going back to school or anything like that. For the second question, how often do you find this information? A lot of them had it was pretty hard because there was a difference. Most of the guys I talked to were younger. There was one gentleman who was over 60 who I talked to, and his responses were a little different than theirs. He said periodically or annually was how often he would look for information about pertaining to his service. But the other guys were talking about active service guys would talk about, well, they would have to find kind of this information when they were off duty. And then recently out fellows would talk about having to use it more when you get out, just to kind of like readjust and come back and use some of the services that were offered to them by the agencies and everything. So that was really interesting to just kind of hear like the differences both between age and occupation, between active and veteran, about what the specifically what their needs were and how often they use them. Another interesting the question 3 was all of them at least got to question 3, and they said a lot of them said they use agencies to find things like the Veterans Administration. Specific branch agencies have different groups. One guy brought up a service he called the AKO, which is the Army Knowledge Office. He said it was really great for helping him find school information when he came back, and helping him plan out his career move after the service. But there was plenty of response to folks just talking about doing things on their own, finding information on their own without using an agency. I mean, using the internet, especially as an active tool, which I think we kind of forget that Google wasn't always around. So especially for the older gentleman I interviewed, he was very very interested in finding resources on his own, because he now had the opportunity to. I think the internet really revolutionized the way he could find that kind of information. So I just thought I'd give you a snapshot of the folks I talked to. One active service Army officer between 20 and 30. Another active service Navy enlisted man between 20 and 30. 2 Army enlisted members, veterans, recently out, 20 to 30. And then a veteran of the Coast Guard, and he was between 60 and 65. And I think obviously it's a little more skewed towards the younger side. But talking to these guys, I was able to get a really, really good snapshot of their kind of information needs and their mindsets towards the information they seek. And I would really encourage anybody interested to talk to somebody. I think a lot of people know a veteran, or at least know somebody who knows a veteran. My experiences were great talking to these guys, and everybody was incredibly willing to give me some information. So if you're really interested, the number one thing I think we started to learn from the class is talk to the group that you're trying to provide a service to, and see exactly what their needs are. These guys are wonderful, and I think that the best way to get in touch with them and to understand exactly what their needs are is to communicate with them. So yeah. So I hope that you guys found that informative and not too number heavy. I was really interested in the topic, so I hope you were too. Thanks very much.